understanding the gospel of the kingdom of God is not as simple. As a matter of fact, maybe 98% of Christians don't even have an understanding of the gospel. They don't know what the gospel means, what the gospel of the kingdom means. Now, let me start by telling you that we Christians were not sent to preach the gospel. Well, don't be in a hurry to stone me, and don't be in a hurry to switch to another channel, or don't be in a hurry to get out of this broadcast. But that is the truth. We were never called to just go preach the gospel. And I will prove that to you soon, and I will explain to you why. If you listen to Christians today, we are focused on preaching the gospel, and we are only talking about preaching the gospel. As a result, we have distorted the message and the assignment that God gave to us. The reason I said that Jesus did not ask us to go and preach the gospel, Laulu is saying, okay, we have to leave the gospel. No. You follow me. That's why I say you must be very careful to catch me today. It's going to be a shocking message for many of you, but for some of you who have been following me, who have listened to my messages, maybe it will not be so shocking, but for a lot of you, it might be shocking. Well, we have not been called to preach the gospel. And the reason is very simple. The gospel in the Greek language means good news, right? Okay. Why is it then that I say we have not been called to preach the gospel? But the gospel is the good news, isn't it? Yes, you're right. We have not been called to just preach the gospel. Each time you see, we have not just been called to preach the good news. Each time you see Jesus talk about going to preach the gospel, he always qualifies it. Qualifies what? Well, the problem is that the word gospel is like an adjective. It's like an adjective. So we have not been called to preach just the adjective. So it's the gospel of something. The adjective of what? So there must be a noun that is qualifying that adjective. So let's say I'm looking at Stephanie Ludwig now, just using her as an example, nothing personal. So let's say Stephanie, I look at her and I say, oh, this is a beautiful lady. She is beautiful. Stephanie is beautiful. Stephanie is a beautiful lady. So who am I talking about? Am I talking about beautiful Stephanie, or I'm just talking about beautiful? If I just say beautiful, she's beautiful, everybody would like to know, who is she? Who is she that is beautiful? That beautiful is not a person yet. Beautiful is a description of who a person is. So if I say she is beautiful, and I now send you forth and I say, go and tell so and so, or go and tell the whole world that she is beautiful. And I begin to go and say, okay, she is beautiful, she is beautiful. Do you know she is beautiful? Everybody will be asking you, who is beautiful now? Who are you talking about? You mean your wife is beautiful? No. Okay, who is beautiful? Well, she's beautiful. Who is beautiful? Your daughter is beautiful? No, she's beautiful. What is beautiful? Who is beautiful? The same with the gospel. The gospel is the adjective. So beautiful is qualifying a certain noun. So what now? Who is the person we're talking about? So you say Stephanie, or my wife is beautiful, or my daughter is beautiful. That, beautiful is just describing. It's a description of something you are talking about. So the same thing with the gospel. The gospel means the good news. So each time you hear Jesus talk about the good news that we should go and preach the gospel, is always qualifying it, and we must always qualify it. The gospel is not the message on itself. So when Jesus said, go and preach the gospel, he's always saying, go and preach the gospel of the kingdom. Go and preach this kingdom of God. Go and preach this message of the kingdom until this gospel of the kingdom is preached in all nations as a witness. It will not come back. Preach the gospel of the kingdom. So the gospel the meaning of the gospel is the good news. Good news must be qualified. Good news of what? That's why it says the good news of the kingdom. The good news of the kingdom. And I will later tell you why it is dangerous not to qualify it. Because like in the Greek language, you could use the word gospel and say, I have a gospel, or I just got a gospel. When you say in the Greek language that I have a gospel, I just got a gospel, or I'm talking about gospel, I'm preaching gospel, it could be anything. So for example, if you marry today, or your son marries, or your neighbor marries, or your family member is marrying, you say, I've got good news. Good news of what? My son is marrying. I've got a gospel. I've got a gospel for you. I've got a gospel for you. I bring you a gospel. What gospel did you bring? My son is marrying. So gospel is not something that is exclusively for God. Gospel is not a news that is exclusive to God. Gospel is not a news that is exclusive to the kingdom of God or to even something religious. So let's say Victor now, I'm looking at Victor right now saying, Okay, let's say your wife got pregnant, Victor Ogundikwe, and you want to tell me about it. If you have been speaking the Greek language, you would have told me, Pastor, I've got a gospel. I've got a gospel for you. I have a gospel. I want to share with you the gospel. What gospel? I want to share with you gospel. What a gospel? What gospel? Oh, my wife is pregnant. That the fact that your wife is pregnant, that also is a gospel because it is good news. So in the original context of the word, good news, any good news is a gospel. That is why each time you see Jesus talk about the gospel, he is always qualifying it. So if your wife is pregnant, that is a gospel. If she gives birth, that is a gospel. Even if you see some good suit or some good shirt or some good material in the shop that you would like to buy, that is a gospel on its own. If you are using that word in the original or in the Greek language, that means you have some good news. So good news of what? So if you do not qualify it, you say you have the gospel or you want to share the gospel or you want to talk about the gospel, we want to know, is it what gospel? What good news do we have? You mean you are getting married? You mean your wife is you're pregnant? You mean you have a child? What gospel are you talking about? What gospel? Gospel means good news. So you have to qualify it. What good news in particular do you mean? So it's just like a description. Or just like I said about the beautiful, you could say, the gospel itself, the way we use it is that we use it as a noun, we use it as a word, but it's a description. It's like beautiful, it's like wonderful, it's like good. What is good? So the gospel is good news. What good news? Good news of what? And that let's look at the way God, let's check it out in the Bible. Don't just believe me. Don't just believe my words. Don't just take my word for it. So let's look at Mark, the book of Mark, chapter 1, verse 14 and to 19, for example. Let's look at the book of Mark and see the way Jesus addresses the gospel here or talks about the gospel. Okay, the gospel according to Mark chapter 1, verse 14 says, now, after Jesus was put in prison, after John was put in prison, Jesus came to Galilee preaching the gospel. You see? Preaching the gospel of what? I don't know if you have the Bible with you. You need to check this out. You need to check this out. You will be amazed You will be perplexed that, so you mean it? You really? For real? That each time the Bible talks about the gospel, it's talking about the gospel of the kingdom. And I will tell you soon why that is important. There is an importance in that. Maybe I should even tell you right now why that is important before I begin to prove that to you. The reason why this is important is, if you don't qualify the good news you are preaching, there is no definition. So somebody handles the Bible today. Let's say somebody takes the Bible, and just like everybody is doing today, just like millions of Christians are doing today, without understanding, without insight, without knowing their left from the right, without even knowing the difference in what they are saying, they just hear somebody say, go preach the gospel, and they take the Bible and they begin to preach the gospel. So what gospel in particular are they preaching? They don't know. What good news? Okay, some people preach the good news of prosperity. That is the gospels. In fact, there are some people in Christianity who believe that their own calling, their own gospel is prosperity. Give and it shall be given to you. That is their own gospel. There are some people who just take the Bible and read something interesting there. Healing, for example. Healing. And they begin to preach the gospel of healing. And they will tell you that's their own specialty. That's their own gospel. Their gospel is the gospel of healing. Okay? Some people could take the Bible and say, okay, my gospel is the gospel of this and that. So, people just take, because there is no concrete definition of what the Bible, of what the gospel is. When you don't have a concrete definition of what you are called to do, you don't have a concrete definition of what that gospel you are talking about is, you will end up preaching anything that falls into your eyes. You will fall for anything because you are not standing for something. When you don't stand for, when you don't have a concrete definition of your assignment, you will be swayed by anything. Now, what is bad about preaching the gospel of prosperity, preaching the gospel of healing, or preaching the gospel of salvation, or preaching the gospel of anything? Just people just qualify or whatever they call themselves. They just take any subject and say that's what they preach. But really, the thing that is bad about that is that, let's say healing, for example. Healing is a benefit, just one benefit. So what is bad about saying, okay, I'm preaching the gospel of healing, or my gospel is healing, or I'm, healing is only a benefit of the kingdom. Healing is only a benefit of the kingdom. Healing is not the gospel of the kingdom. Healing is not the kingdom. It's not the message. The good news is not healing. Even though it is good when we get healed, even though we are happy when we get, yes, healing is good news. But that is not the message. That is not the assignment we were sent to carry out. Yes, but if you focus on giving people the good news of healing, that you fall into the temptation and the danger of being deceived and being carried away. That is why Jesus now said, many will come in my name and say, this is Jesus here, this is Jesus here. Or many will come and do miracles in my name. So if you don't know that the good news that you are sent to preach is the good news of the kingdom of God, when anybody comes with any good news, you will fall for it. Let's say somebody comes with the good news of healing. Like, for example, in my country, there is a big controversy about a certain, not just one certain, but about many men of God in my country who a lot of people troop into their meetings, a lot of people troop into their services, and because for one argument only, because they are preaching the gospel. And what gospel do they preach? They are preaching the gospel of miracles. They are preaching the gospel of healing. They are preaching the gospel of breakthrough. I am sorry, But by the time you examine the gospel that is being preached in my country, for example, I come from Nigeria, you will discover that people, maybe only 1 or 2% of the church is preaching the gospel, the true gospel. The gospel that most of them are preaching, it is a subjugated gospel. It is a fake gospel. It is a gospel, it is half gospel. It is a gospel of benefits of the kingdom. It is not the gospel that Jesus asked us to preach. We are only asked to preach one gospel. In our country right now and all over the world, people have their own gospel, all kinds of gospel. In my country, Nigeria, I think that the gospel that most people preach about is the gospel of the gospel of man, the gospel of the good news to man, the good news to the person, the gospel of individualism, the gospel of egocentrism. We preach mainly anything that sounds good, anything that will benefit man, anything that will, make somebody feel good, anything that will make that will make things attractive to people. Some people preach the gospel of motivation. Some people preach the gospel of success. Some people preach the gospel of breakthrough. Some people preach the gospel of healing. Some people preach all kinds of gospel. And like I said, the disadvantage in that is that you don't have a definition of what we stand for. We don't have a definition of why we're here. We don't have the assignment. If you don't have the assignment well defined and well carved out for you, you will be doing the wrong things and you will be believing that you are doing the right thing. Okay, so whenever the Bible talks about the gospel, it's only talking about one thing. We are only asked to go preach the gospel of the kingdom of God. We are only asked to go preach the gospel of the kingdom of God. The only gospel that is existing is the gospel of the kingdom of God. Other things are the benefits of that gospel. All other things are the compensation that you get. Not compensation, benefit, profit, reward that you get. Or sometimes they are the characteristics of that, of features of that gospel. They are the particles of that gospel, but not the message itself. The good news that we are asked to preach is the good news of the kingdom of God. Thank you so much for watching our videos. Now we need to spread this word and we need to do it together. For that to happen, we need your help. Just 5 little steps that you could help us to spread the word. Number one thing we need you to do is to like the videos. Please go like this video right now. Number 2, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Number 3, we need you to press and click on that notification bell. You see the bell? Go press on it. And number 4, we need you to go comment. Write your comment, good or bad. Just write what you feel. Number 5, share on every platform. Share on Instagram, share on Facebook. Just share and spread the word. Thank you so much. All right, blessings.